In our earlier video series, we have discussed about various planets. In our today's video, we are going to discuss about Saturn. Saturn is generally considered to be an evil planet, causing lot of harm to an individual. But we will observe that Saturn can also produce lot of benefic results for an individual. So what you have to do, you have to open your horoscope chart and observe Saturn is placed in which house of your horoscope. Please do not confuse the number written in your chart as the house. The numbers written, those indicate rashis. Houses are always fixed and in counter-clockwise direction. How to identify which house we have discussed in earlier videos. So far, so I hope you now find out Saturn is placed in which house of your horoscope, and we will begin the analysis of Saturn in various houses. Saturn, when it is placed in the first house, Saturn is a slow moving planet and a malefic planet. It can produce lot of evil effects in first house. But when Saturn is favorably placed in the sign of exaltation or is in his own sign, it can also produce lot of benefic results. So from the analysis of Brigu Sutras, we have come to a conclusion that Saturn can produce either lot of malefic result or an extreme benefic results in first house. So it is mentioned if Saturn is malefically placed, such kind of individuals will have a lot of delicious kind of diseases, maybe some skin diseases, may not have a very long span of life, some issues with married life as well and children. So overall, a poverty stricken individual. It is also mentioned that if Saturn is aspected by moon in the first house without any benefic influence of Jupiter or Venus, such kind of individuals might also have to beg. But on the other hand, if Saturn is favorably exalted or in benefic signs in the first house, you will observe such kind of individuals will live like a king. They will own various kinds of land. They might be a head of a village and they will have a long life and they will humiliate their enemies. So Saturn can produce extreme results in first house depending upon the nature of its placement in his first house. Either a person can even be a beggar or can even be a king. So thus we have discussed the effects of Saturn in first house. Saturn in second house is not considered very favorable for an individual unless Saturn is very benefically placed and the second lord is very strong or aspected by Jupiter. Such in such situations, the individual might be saved, but Saturn is malefically placed in the second house. Lot of evil effects have been mentioned about such kind of individuals. So such kind of individuals will also live in constantly want of money. They will constantly need money, but they will not get, or they might not have so much savings in their life. They will also suffer from eye troubles. They will have affliction on their face. They might also be little ugly in their appearance, and they might have some kind of disease on their face or some kind of affliction on their face when Saturn is placed malefically in the second house. Also, they might be little harsh in their speech and, as I mentioned, ugly in appearance and constantly in want of money if Saturn is malefically placed. So, Saturn in second house is not considered very favorable for an individual. Third house is considered to be a malefic house. Generally, malefics in malefic house perform very well if they are favorably placed in the sign of exaltation or in their own sign. So, Saturn, if favorably placed in the third house, you will observe that such kind of individuals will have good number of brothers. They might be they might be intellectual, a good orator, and they might be wealthy. But if Saturn is malefically placed in the third house, there are chances that that individual will not have any younger brothers, and if he has some brothers, there might be some issues with the lifespan of the younger brothers. So Saturn, if malefically placed, can cause harm towards brothers or troubles from brothers in an individual's life. Overall, when it is favorably placed in the third house, such kind of individuals will be intelligent, good orators, wealthy, and wealthy and good in their intellect overall. Saturn is considered to be one of the malefics in Vedic astrology, and Saturn in fourth house can produce lot of malefic effects. Such malefic effects will be reduced if we have benefic aspects of Jupiter or if the fourth house lord is very strong. But in absence of such situations, a lot of evil effects have been mentioned for Saturn in fourth house. Some of the evil effects are the person might be separated from his mother early on, so he may not enjoy his own mother's span of life too much in his own life. Then there might be loss of lands, loss of conveyances, and lot of troubles in his childhood and homes. So Saturn, fourth house is very bad for domestic life, troubles for mind and related to mother. If the fourth house lord is not very strong, and this if fourth house does not have any benefic association on Jupiter or Venus, and if Saturn is connected with eighth house lord in fourth house, then such kind of individuals might also have two mothers, maybe one mother and another one a stepmother in their life. So Saturn in fourth house produces a lot of evil effects for an individual unless the fourth house lord is very strong or without malefic association of Jupiter and Venus. A lot of malefic results have been mentioned for Saturn in fourth house. Saturn being a malefic planet destroys the significations of the fifth house. If Saturn is malefically placed in the fifth house without any benefic association of Jupiter or Venus, and if the fifth house lord is also not very strong, so in such situations, you will observe that person might be childless. So such kind of individuals with malefic Saturn in fifth house, they will remain childless and want of money. They may not have so much money in their life. Also, such kind of individuals will have to suffer a lot of troubles in their life. There are chances that such kind of individuals might adopt daughter in near future. It is also mentioned that if Saturn is favorably placed in the fifth house, such kind of individuals will have multiple affairs in their life with multiple females and thus will generate a lot of bad karma for himself. Sixth house is an upachaya house. Saturn in sixth house can produce some good effects like the destruction of enemies. If Saturn is placed in the sixth house, you will observe that such kind of people will overcome all their enemies in their life. Also, you will observe that they might also suffer from some diseases in their life. So, Saturn in sixth house, although gives victory over enemies, it can also produce some diseases for an individual. It is mentioned if the eighth house lord, if Saturn is the eighth house lord and is placed in the sixth house, then there might be some reduction in longevity of an individual. It is also mentioned in the Brigu Sutras that if Saturn is placed with Mars in the sixth house, such kind of individuals will travel here and there and far wide. Also, a lot of ancient acharyas have mentioned that when Saturn is placed in the sixth house, such kind of individuals will eat lot of food in their life. So they will eat lot of food in their. And as sixth house is an upachaya house, Saturn being placed in the sixth house also gives in an individual a wealth in his life, as mentioned in the Brigu Sutras. The placement of Saturn in seventh house, the house of marriage, is not considered to be very favorable. Saturn, when it is placed in the seventh house, and if it is devoid of any benefic association by Jupiter or Venus, and the seventh house lord is also not very strong, there are a lot of evil effects mentioned. For example, such kind of individuals will get a very lean bodied wife. So their wife will be very lean bodied and he will indulge in prostitution. So he will likely go towards prostitutes in his life. It is mentioned if Saturn is placed with Mars, Venus, or Ketu in the seventh house, such kind of individuals will have perverted kind of sexual desires. So by perverted means like what we normally don't observe in individuals. So he will have very perverted kind of mindset when it comes to sexual desires. Overall, when Saturn is placed in the seventh house, individual will be of questionable character and will likely indulge in prostitution and will indulge in many females in his life. And thus he will have some troubles in his married life as well. It is generally mentioned that when malefics are placed in the eighth house, they reduce lifespan of an individual. But in Saturn's case, it is observed that it might increase the lifespan of an individual when it is placed in the eighth house. But it also produces a lot of evil effects if malefically placed in the eighth house. And the eighth house or the second house lord is also not very strong. Why second house? Because eighth house directly aspects the second house, and second house is the house of eyes. So when Saturn is placed in the eighth house, it can directly impact the eyes of an individual, and such kind of individuals might suffer from some kind of eye troubles in their life. Also, it is mentioned in the Brigu Sutras that Saturn in 8th house can make a person poor and make him want of money. Also, Brigu Sutras mention that when Saturn is placed in the 8th house, such kind of individuals will remain in want of food, they will be without friends, and evil minded kind of individuals. So, Saturn in 8th house is not considered to be very favorable for an individual. The Brigu Sutras mention that when Saturn is placed in the 9th house, such kind of individuals, they are not very religious minded people. Also, it mentions that when Saturn is benefically placed in his own sign or the sign of exaltation, the father will be very long lived in the 9th house. And in only in such situations, the person might even be a renunciate and well versed in Shastras. But if Saturn is malefically placed in the 9th house, such kind of individuals might observe that their father's lifespan is not very high and they might have to suffer because they're irreligious in their behavior and they do a lot of sinful activities. But it's still mentioned that Saturn, eventually, when he understands that it is all sin, later on in his life, he might turn religious. If Saturn is placed in the 10th house as a functional benefic or in the own sign or in the sign of exaltation, such kind of individuals will have an excellent career. They will be very wealthy, good professional, first class administrators, and first class managers. So such kind of individuals will have an excellent career in their life. But if like Saturn is malefically placed in the 10th house, such kind of individual will face lot of obstacles in his life. He might have to deal with lot of challenges in his professional life, and there will be a lot of delay in career success for such kind of individuals. So Saturn can produce either obstacles or an excellent results depending upon placement, its placement in the 10th house. Although we have discussed so many malefic effects of Saturn, but Saturn, when it is placed in the 11th house, gives excellent results. When Saturn is placed in the 11th house, such kind of individuals will be very wealthy. All the ancient acharyas have accepted when Saturn is placed in the 11th house, such kind of individuals are very wealthy, especially for Aries or Taurus kind of ascendants, when it is the Lord of 9th and 10th placed in the 11th house. It results in powerful Dhana Yoga. So when Saturn is placed in his own sign or the sign of exaltation or as the lord of the ninth or 10th house in the 11th house, you will observe such kind of individuals are always wealthy. They will eventually learn lot of wealth, although there might be some obstacles, but eventually they will earn lot of wealth and they will be very wealthy in their life. It is mentioned that if Saturn is placed in the 12th house, such kind of individuals are generally sinful. And if it is placed with malefics in the 12th house, they might have to suffer after their death in hells, and they will have perform a lot of sinful deeds when they're alive. But if Saturn is placed with benefics in the 12th house, such kind of individuals will do some kind of benefic activities in their life and will go to heaven after their death. So ideally, Saturn in 12th house is not considered to be very favorable for an individual. Also, it is mentioned that when Saturn is placed in the 12th house, there will be some kind of affliction for an individual in some bodily part. Thank you everyone for going through Saturn in 12 houses. Overall, your chart has to be analyzed by a professional astrologer to understand the evil effects and the benefic effects produced by various planets in your chart. Only then the perfect analysis can be made. You have just discussed the general effects of Saturn in your 12 houses. Thank you everyone for watching.